So anyway, Yanick Paquette, is that French?
Yeah, well, I'm French Canadian. I don't think if there's that many Paquette in France, but there's a bunch of them in Quebec. So yeah, I'm French Canadian from Montreal.
Yeah, but you're from the English speaking part.
No, I'm from the French part. I've learned English when I was 21 or so. Before that, it's
And now
just,
you're 25.
And now I'm 25,
Yeah.
obviously.
Yeah. So
And yeah, I've learned English for work. I would get script. Well, as a French Canadian, I could have access to either the European market, like the Franco-Belgium type thing, which I adore truly, and which is basically what I've read the most as a kid, or the American market, which was closer. And because of the timing, it was the 90s, and in the 90s, the comics industry went into like a frenzy, and with Image Comic, and they were looking for a lot of people to draw stuff, and I was not super solid, but the needs were so great, so I've managed to sneak in.
So I'm really curious. I like to draw myself, not on this scale, but I do it because it's a way to let off, to unload your mind.
Yeah, absolutely.
So if you tell me, who are you and what is your main, what do you do, the most of the things that you do, what is it? What's your main stream of creativity? Who are you and what do you do?
Yeah, well, professionally, I've been working for Marvel and DC for the past 27 years. So I've done them all. I've done a run of Batman, a lot of Wonder Woman in the recent years, X-Men, some GLA. You know, I've managed to dabble. I've worked with Alan Moore, Grant Morrison. Yeah, I've been there for a while. And well, nowadays I'm doing still interior comic, but they're a long-term project because I'm not the young man that I used to be able to do 22 pages in a month, like the monthly crazy schedule of comic. It's a young man game and a young woman game nowadays, thankfully. So I'm doing special projects and covers. So this is what I'm doing now.
So how did you get into? How did you discover that you had this talent?
Yeah, well, comic was not my first. First of all, I studied biology to become an entomologist. People that look at insects way too much, and eventually, I mean, I've always been interested in drawing and in comics and everything, but it didn't seem realistic for me to draw comics for a living because in Montreal, I mean, Quebec is a small French market inside North America, and there's not really any comics going on there. So it was not realistic to make a living out of it. But I've met people that were working for the American industry and were making a living, and I figured, oh, this maybe is the way to. It's possible. So that got me excited, and I quit entomology, and I started being more serious about my drawing. But I approached it in a very, I want to say scientific kind of way where I have like weird books that if one day the police find it, it's going to be strange, but like pages and pages of just arms twisting where the muscles are connecting, and like really going through anatomy in a systematic sort of way. And the same with the rules of perspective and everything. And to me, I've made my own curriculum of what are the tools that you need to master in order to make comics for a living. And I've reached a certain point where I could send samples to publisher. And yeah, well, the thing is, at the moment you get a job and you got 22 pages to do in a month, by the time you're done with those 22 pages, you're probably twice as good as when you started. Eventually it's plateauing out. I mean, nowadays, I'm probably I'm declining maybe. But in the early years, it's just a crazy progression. You just need to be able to get to a point where they will hire you. And yeah, I did adaptation of TV show probably for the first year. Xena Warrior Princess and X-Files. I've done a lot of X-Files. And eventually I got good enough to to get to DC, and I stayed there for a long time and moved a bit to Marvel for a while, back to DC.
Awesome.
That's my crazy path.
Awesome.
And sometimes I look back at the insect and I say, this could have been my life,
Yeah.
maybe better. And I know, who knows? We'll never know.
Nope.
We'll never know.
Still not too late to
It's not
try
too late,
it.
and honestly, when I can, anytime I can, I'll travel to cool jungle and spend some time looking under rocks and leaves and trying to find cool beetles and stuff. And I can say that probably in North America, I can identify most beetles. These were my specialty, not butterfly. They're evil, but beetles are great, and I can identify them to at least not the species in all time, but at least the genre. So that's personal proud.
Awesome.
And it's not useful when you draw a comic, except that one time when I did Swamp Thing. I did Swamp Thing for 2 years, and Swamp Thing, it's all about nature and swamps, and there's a lot of, I could drag upon my knowledge of biology to do cool, crazy panel border. And every time there's an insect in Swamp Thing, it's accurate, and it's region accurate also. And nobody will ever know.
That's cool. So, COVID-19 did some really bad things to the world in the past 2 years.
Mhm.
And last year there was no Comic Con, I think, here. But have you been here before?
No, it's my first time.
Okay.
Actually, it's not only my first time, it's my first travel overseas post-COVID. I've done Boston, which is, it's not overseas, it's a different country because it's America and I'm in Canada, but it's like 45 minutes away by plane, so that's not a big deal. But yeah, it's my first venture outside. And I used to do once a month or almost like crazy trips around the world. And honestly, when I started doing comics, that was not part of the plan. I thought my life would be living in my basement, maybe once a month talking to an editor on the phone, hello human, and that would be it. But as it turned out, for some strange reason, probably the movies, the Marvel movies, that's not so strange. There is convention now everywhere in the world, in Asia, in South Africa, in South America, and they look for guests. So I'm like, okay, I'll travel.
Yeah.
And so I'm here to meet people, but also, I've never been to Sweden, so let's and I booked a few extra days so I can look around and have fun.
So what's your impression of the Comic Con 2021 here?
Yeah, honestly, when you've done as many Comic Con as I did, they kind of all look the same, which is not necessarily a bad thing. For people here, this is like that one time they can let out the geek in them and be crazy and dressed up as whatever. So there's something beautiful in it. But to me, it's even more beautiful that if you go to Jakarta, you'll get a room about like this, and you'll get another set of Supergirl and a Deadpool guy, but of course they're Indonesian, but they share the same craziness, and it's funny because inside their own society they're weirdos and they're like strange people, but without them knowing it, they form a web of crazy around the earth, and they all can debate which is the best, I don't know, Star Trek captain or some other weird subject that the most of the world don't really care that much, but they do it. And they are connected to Argentinian, which also are passionate with that weird thing, and here too. So I just find it moving. And personally, when I go to these places and people, I've seen my work and they enjoy what I've been doing, I mean, it's moving. I live in Montreal, I travel on the other side of the earth, and there's people there that are excited to see me. So yeah, maybe. Of course, I'm a celebrity in a super tiny section of Indonesia, like that pocket of people, but they all gather at that show. And the same for here, so yeah, that's it.
Awesome. Cool. Thanks
All
for
right.
talking to us.